Okay, so hi, my name is Maud. The first question comes from Barbara. It goes like this. In your fourth competency, you say that you need to diversify your presentation techniques. What is a presentation technique and how would you vary those? What would be examples of variation? Would you adapt those presentation techniques for different levels or would it fit all your group levels? So, presentation techniques are just the ways a teacher uses to introduce content to his or her students. So traditionally, teachers just gave lectures while students listened and took notes. However, today pedagogy has much evolved, and teachers need to find ways to grab students' attention and vary the way they teach to students in order to promote their learning and suit all types of learners. Also, with students being so used to technology, their attention span is much reduced. So teachers cannot just talk for a whole period and expect students to stay quiet. I think that personally I should work on adding more visual to my lessons. During the whole practicum, I showed only one video to my students, and they really seemed to enjoy it. Actually, I think it made a great introduction to their project, and I think it really motivated them to work. So I should do it more. I already tried to project the documents that I gave to the students as much as possible, so it was easier for them to follow. And I also projected the exercise and the answers. However, I think I could use more visual support. For instance, I could do PowerPoints, I could use videos, like I just said, and I could also try to use sound just to change the focus and suit the auditory learners. Yeah, so I think I should try to include the students more in my lessons too, not just be the one in front talking and being responsible for the lesson. I did it once. I asked the students to come in front of the class and they wrote their answers on the board, but I think I should have done it more. So to satisfy the kinesthetic learners, I should try to do more activities during which students can experiment with material. I kind of did it once with my station activities, and I will certainly try to do it more in the future. Finally, I think that varying presentation techniques is essential at every level. Any presentation technique can be used for every level. You just have to, if you present a video, you can do it in elementary, high school, but you have to choose the video according to what you need for your class. So I think it's really important that students from all ages need to be stimulated with a variety of media. So the second question is also from Barbara. She asked me, you stated in your third competency that transitions are an issue for you. What is wrong with your transitions and what techniques would you use to improve them? So transitions, they're really important to plan ahead because it's when a teacher can lose so much precious classroom time and also lose the control of his or her classroom. So the first time I noticed that I had to work on my transitions was when I first distributed papers to my students. So I just passed the sheets one by one to every student. So they quickly all started to talk in French and about anything that had nothing to do with the class. So at the time I thought it was normal. I was like, that it didn't matter that much because I was just giving papers. So I didn't have to be in silence and waiting for the next step. But then I noticed that my voice is not so loud, so I have a hard time catching students' attention when they're talking. So that's why I should avoid it. And also, I realized that it was harder to bring them back on focus after they had been all chatty, because they were more excited about what they were talking about than doing a grammar activity. So it definitely took more time after to give my instructions to the students. So after that day, what I did was distribute the papers in rows or just ask students to do it for me. It would be much easier. And also another thing that I should do is that when I ask the students to take a page in their textbook or to take out a certain documents from their binder, I should just circulate around the classroom instead of just staying in front and waiting for them to do it in be in silence, because and I should circulate, yeah, to verify if they're actually doing it or if they're just losing time looking through their paper, and if they're actually taking their right pages, because at some point I realized that they all had their textbook but they didn't know where to go. So that's why I should circulate more. Also, since my voice is not the strongest as I mentioned previously, I think that I should really find a signal to get attention. So I did try to use the lights. It worked so-so. It worked with certain groups. It didn't work at all. With a few groups it worked at the beginning, but then the more I used it, the less it was effective. And also, like for some group, I just had to close them. For other groups, I had to flash the lights. So it's not the most effective technique. I should find something else. I wanted to try the technique where the teacher just raises his hands and waits for the students. When the students see that he's doing it, they also have to raise their hands and wait in silence. But I didn't know if it was appropriate at the high school level. So I think I will try it in my next practicum since we're at the elementary level. But we'll see. Also, when I ask for students' attention, I should wait more and make sure that everybody's really in silence. I find it so awkward to be in front of the class and just wait for everyone to be in silence that I just start giving my instructions even though they're not completely in silence. So some students are still talking, not paying attention to what I'm saying. So yeah, it's kind of a problem because then they don't know what to do. Also, when I give instruction, I should try to always start with "in a moment, do this, blah blah blah." This way, they will know that they don't have to do it right now. So students will be kept from moving right away and before I even finish speaking. So they'll know that I have more to say, that they still have to listen, instead of just starting to work. I also want to find a go signal that I can use all the time. So this way students will know that they have to wait before they have to wait for the sign before getting on task. I also should specify exactly what I expect from the students behavior-wise, so they know what they have to do. This way I will have tangible evidence to reprimand the students if I need to, because I will have explicitly told them what was acceptable and what was not. Okay, so my last question comes from Elise, and it goes like this. The competency number 3 includes important notions like differentiation. A notion like this one is a big part in our future job. We constantly have to make sure our lessons are adapted to all students. Did you have to make some differentiation in your groups during your practicum? So, yes, of course I had to. The level of proficiency of the students varies so much, and some students are especially perfectionist and they have to look for every word and verify their text over and over again, and other students just don't care and just do everything as quickly as possible and they don't verify anything. In one of my groups I had a three bilingual students who would speak mostly English at home, and I had one student that couldn't read in French or in English, and I had another student who could say approximately 2 words in English. So it was kind of hard to challenge all of the students, but you can't just give them all the same things, because some of them will just find, so the bilingual student would find some exercises boring, or they would finish them really quickly. So yeah, I definitely had to do differentiation in my groups during practicum. The first thing that comes to my mind in terms of methods that I used for differentiation was the access to resources. Students with learning disabilities all had access to a computer to complete their written production and reading comprehension. For the written production, they had access to an online dictionary, and they could write their text on Word, so they had the corrector. So I gave them the resources of Word reference to go to. So for them, it's really easier this way to organize their thoughts and avoid mistakes that they just can't see, because it's just the way their brain works. It's not because they don't know. So that's why they have access to computers. And also for the reading comprehension, what I did is I typed the text and I gave it to them on the on a USB key, and then they could just listen to it instead of just reading it, so they would not get all mixed up with the words. Also, another thing I did is my station activities again. They were not working in teams, but they were they were still in teams. So I made those teams myself, and I made sure that in every team there was at least one strong student, and with weaker students, and with mid-range student. So this way they could all help each other. And they all benefited from it, because the weaker students got the explanations from the stronger students, and the stronger students consolidated their thoughts by explaining them. Yeah. So it was a good way to form the teams, to do differentiation. Also, another thing that's important is the students' working pace. They all have very different rhythm. Some finish really early, while others need a lot of time. And I always made sure that I gave them enough time in class to complete their tasks. Like I never told a student, okay, it's over, you have to give me your copy. If they were not finished, I just asked them to come to remedial to give them more time, because sometimes you just don't have time in class because of you have to follow your planning and stuff. So yeah, I always have had them come to remedial to make sure they have enough time, and that time was not an issue for them. Also, students had to do irregular verb tests. And to the students with learning disabilities, what I did is I gave them a list of the verbs. So they had all the verbs in French, and they had to write in English. So I just gave them a list of all the verbs they had to put in the blanks. So this way they would not get 0 because they couldn't write the verbs. Because it's what happened usually. They just didn't get the spelling right, so they had no points, but they knew the verbs. So it was really discouraging for them. So with the list, if they don't know it, they'll still get a bad grade. But at least if they know, they won't do mistakes based on their learning disabilities. Also, I asked specific students to come to remedial to see me because I noticed that they struggled with a certain aspect, notably the conjugation of negative sentences. At the past was trouble for most of the students, for a few students. So what I did is I re-explained what we talked about in class, and I gave them extra activities to do. I corrected it with them and then explained what they got wrong, but they had mostly understood, or at least way better than they did in class, because it was one-on-one, or me with 2 or 3 students. Also, I asked students to do kiosks and to present their sport that they created, and I asked them to use a visual support, and I told them you can use whatever you want. You can do it on computer, on paper, whichever helps you the most, and whichever medium you're comfortable working with. And finally, I presented a TV show to students in all my groups, and they had to watch an episode in class and answer questions. And with the Cheminement Particulier group, what I did is add choices for the answers, because most of them have learning disabilities and they're just not able to write the words properly. When they hear it, if they read it, they'll recognize it, but if they just hear it, they won't be able to write it. So they would get bad grades and be demotivated and think that English was not fun and really hard. So with the choices, they got good grades, and it was really encouraging for them. And yeah, it's because of their learning disabilities. It's not because they're bad. So thank you for listening. Have a great day.